After nearly 8 months, Bitcoin broke out into a new all-time high. The signals were there for us. It dropped the market, and now the market is back into new all-time highs. Today, I have another massive hidden pattern for you guys. I am as excited as you are about to see what happens in November, which has basically occurred every single bull market and accumulation year that we have seen going back nearly 10 years on Bitcoin. Strap in, we've got heaps to get through in today's video. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe now. I don't want you to miss each of the day's analysis. Now, I've got, as I said, lots to get through and recap just quickly. It's your home of macro cycle analysis with me, Jason Pizzino. We cover Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle. So if you're looking for everything to do in regards to the financial markets, this is the place, or at least I think so. So I'm going to start with a couple of videos just quickly, just to show you where we've come from. Basically looking at the analysis and the data and then seeing how it's played out to see whether we're on track here to, I guess, forecast yet again for November. Now, there were a few videos going back 8 days. No one's watching this mother of all short squeezes, and another couple going back 2 to 3 weeks, looking at these massive repeating patterns, which signaled. So it's happened now. This is the video here, the mother of all short squeezes. We got it. This is the short squeeze right there. You had nearly 500 million shorts get squeezed out of the market. And this pattern, this signal here, Crowded Market Report was showing that particular move. And it happens very, very often in the markets. Essentially, you can see that there was a lot of people trying to short and the market broke through. In this case, Bitcoin broke through those tops. Now, next on the agenda is this particular pump, this 200% pump last time this happened. And I've got a little surprise for you at the end, a bit of a price target, a short-term price target for Bitcoin, as we've seen it break through the all-time high and a short-term 50% level. As you can hopefully tell, this video is going to be very jam-packed filled with Bitcoin and altcoin data. So this particular one was looking at the weekly swing bottoms and how that formed through an accumulation or reaccumulation phase of the market, leading into essentially like a new paradigm or a next stage. The movement, the energy, and the whole excitement of the market shifts. That's what we're looking at as we move forward into this next stage. As you can see here, this was going back to October 21, so nearly 3 weeks ago. And here is where we currently are now. Market has moved up from roughly around that 68K level now to $76,000 today. That's peaking out there at 76,500. A very similar pattern here using the swing bottoms, using again swing indicator there, lower lows forming, and then you had your sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern form. This lower low formed at 2, and then 3 was a higher low, and then 4 was another higher low. And through these particular periods here, you still had the masses believing that there was a possibility of sweeping the lows and then coming back. Whenever you hear that statement where people are just hoping for another low to come in so they can scoop up lower priced insert asset, right, and then take off with them, it's probably unlikely going to happen because they've missed out on all the previous opportunities. Things are about to flip in the opposite direction. I think we're going to go we're going to go up, but then you've got to sort of watch out for those tops, which I'll get to in just a moment. Basically, a bit of a warning into that bull market. I want to do it early enough before we get too crazy with retail coming into the space and telling us that it's impossible for the market to ever go down. So the next thing that we've called now, so that was 2 of those points. Next one is number 3. This is the ETF flows. We saw the highest amount of flows in the Bitcoin ETFs. Basically, ETFs getting sold off on 4th of November, and that was the second highest, if I'm not mistaken, going all the way back to May being the highest, May 1st being the highest. Here it is again. I just posted this on X, so go follow. Links are in the video description. You can see the top came in at the highest inflows that we had seen in a matter of months, and then we had the highest outflows coming in, which called the low as well. So again, this is a fantastic contrarian indicator. I've made a few warnings about this if you're following other analysts out there that use this as a confirmation to tell us that the market is going up. You know, more people are buying, therefore it's going up. And some of them might use it as a sign to say, well, there's a lot of people selling, therefore it's possibly going to go down again. But it's really the contrarian indicator. So try to use that to your best advantage. And of course, we'll continue to follow it up here on the channel. So that is number 3 that has occurred through this particular stage of the cycle where Bitcoin has continued to show strength upon strength. Now, we look at the fear and greed index here. It's at extreme greed. So just a slight little warning here. We're at all-time highs. It's party time. It's all that sort of jazz. But just to keep our heads about us, it's getting extremely greedy out there, and the masses have yet to throw their pocket change at Bitcoin and altcoins. Like, we're not really seeing that side of the market come back. I'm not getting a ton of calls. Maybe you're the same, and you're still trying to explain it to people if they're interested, of course. But contrary to what most believe, this next phase of the bull ride is mentally the toughest. So basically, I'm trying to prepare you now that when things go up, things get more difficult. The low part is the easy part. So if you think that was tough in 22 and 2023, think again. The next part gets way more difficult because of the wild volatility, the fluctuations in price, and the fear every time the market will correct. For now, at least, congratulations, sticking it out. We hit that new all-time high, and we are now riding high into the winner's curse phase of the financial markets. Basically, the economy, the real estate cycle, things are heading up. So preparing for this ride up, as I said, things become more volatile. I tried to show you here just quickly how things have continued to play out, and I try to forecast it in advance as best as I can. Sometimes they happen within a few days, sometimes it happens within a few weeks or within a few months. So hopefully, without sort of sounding too cocky, you can sort of see this thing happens, now the next thing could potentially happen, where again, you just need to be prepared for any sort of price appreciation and not to get too skewed in your views that it will never go down, because we'll have to flip eventually. We're going to have to flip from bullish to take it easy. The bear might be coming, but that's potentially a little way away. Okay, dips are common, 20 to 50%. That's what we've seen in the past, at least for BTC. For the stock market, you could possibly see anything from 5, 10, sometimes 15% within the bull market ride. Now, selling into the greed is tough. It's tough because, well, everyone is telling you that the price should keep going up, and you're an idiot for dropping your coins or losing them, or paper hands, or whatever the stupid saying is from the masses. Basically, they don't want you to sell. They want you to hold on for the ride. The thing with that is you might be selling out here and the thing keeps running. That's also a possibility. But what you have that they don't have is that you got in somewhere around here, and they're getting in somewhere around here, or even worse, somewhere around here. So that's the difference. They're hoping it has a lot further to go. They think the bull market just started up here, but in fact, it started back in 2022, 2023 at those lows. Now, I'm talking about, say, for the correction in real estate, Bitcoin had its low in November 2022, and stock markets also had a low there as well. So a lot of these masses will eventually come back towards the peak, and they see all that previous data, all that previous action as not the bull market. To me, this is the bull market start right there, or at least one of the parts of the bull market, because that's right at the low. Okay, so they're coming back towards the peak. They have a lot more to lose if the thing rolls over. Selling too soon should be avoided. So it sounds a bit contrary here, but you're trying to hold on as long as possible. A couple of tools that I use and I talk about often here in the videos, you might be using them yourself. Follow the Gann swing indicator. That has shown time and time again to be a very, very reliable tool to keep you on the right side. You can basically keep your stops underneath some of these swing lows now. You're going to need a few other strategies implemented there along with your back testing. And if you're just starting out, don't fret. It's very simple to get a hold of. Check out TIA Premium. Links are in the video description, and that can help you along with that journey for your long-term or your short-term trading as well. So that's one of the big tools I use. And then the next one is the Gann 50% level. So our 50% levels have kept us right in the game when those were thinking the market was about to implode. This is was now our bull market support level. Bitcoin held above that line there at 49K. Really, really good stuff here. Essentially, that tells you one half is strong, the other half is weak. And if it breaks down from that point, possibly the game is over. For now, we are back in new all-time highs. And so we now reassess to the higher prices. And the last thing I have here, we can add more to this throughout the cycle, is the pump will last forever. Basically, this time is different. TA doesn't work because, you just keep going up and up and up and up until you don't. So keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of these sort of sayings that come out towards the peak. Okay, moving on from that point. Now, the 18-year cycle, many thought it was over in 22 and 2023. They thought we were heading for a recession. You possibly heard that for all of 2023 and 2024, and we're beginning to hear it again. Now is the time to hang on for the ride, okay? Be sure you take profits when the masses think the cycle is only just getting started. So hopefully I've explained that enough to get you to see that they have a different starting point to us. If you get the starting point right, you have a much better chance of taking profits. Most do not get the starting points right, and they measure things wrong. It's like if you're trying to build a deck or something and you have all the wrong starting points, you're going to end up with a shithouse deck. Okay, so that's the same sort of thing. Insert your own analogy, you get the idea. Make no mistake, well, I made a mistake. These are the final years of the cycle and we're riding it out here, guys. Okay, that's the cycle, winner's curse, end of it. Second half of the real estate cycle, peaks around 25, 20, 26, so real estate and the economy. We'll have to wait and see whether the stock market rides out just that little bit higher throughout 2026 as well. The S&P 500 now at new all-time highs, so close to 6,000. My first target was around 6,100 just based on a few extensions that we've been watching. And these are basically checked off the list. We had some volatility, especially on the last day of October. The 4 to 5 week volume fill that happened through here. Basically, it was low volume on the rise. Look at that low volume from these price points there. And then we had a fill in volume on higher volume. So it happened again. First, October being a red day, probably going to see a green quarter four. So what happened on October 1st? There it is there, red day. Probably likely we're going to see 2 more months of upside and end the quarter green. So that's a good thing to note as well, especially for Bitcoin and the altcoins. The other thing I have here is the Bitcoin top leading indicator. So just quickly, if you missed this on the last videos, Bitcoin has topped in its own cycles before the S&P topped. You have about a month or two, maybe 6 weeks, Bitcoin tops and then the S&P tops. So it could be some sort of leading indicator here. This hidden pattern has to do with dates in the market. We get very strong turns and pauses through these periods, and it's pretty damn uncanny how often it happens. Before I dive into this, just a shout out to our free TIA Discord community. If you want to be involved in that and get some of the updates here from Michael and myself in a more timely manner, checking out TIA updates, link in the top of the video description, subscribe to the email report. You'll also be on the list for when the Black Friday sale comes out. Plus, as I said, you'll get these updates here fresh to your Discord. So over to the dates now and where things are going throughout November. I think this is extremely timely now because of the violent move that we've had and what happens after these violent moves. All I've seen across YouTube this morning after Trump wins, all-time highs, mega pumps, parabolic moves, people calling for 100K sooner rather than later, those sort of things, is sometimes, or quite often, as you'll see, the opposite. Now, I'm not saying the market is over, definitely not that, but it does just enough to fool most of the people most of the time. You've probably seen me use that quote before as well from some of the legendary investors and traders of our time. So we've got this abnormal bar. On yesterday's live stream that I did 4.5 hours for the US election, we looked at the biggest moves for this whole 8-month period. So the largest daily moves that Bitcoin has done. And what I said on that on that stream was that the top for Bitcoin on the 6th was potentially going to be somewhere around 77K. That could be one of the highest prices if we had the largest abnormal day. I heard people calling for 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 God candles that day. But you just have to look back at what history has done. Look at average ranges, go to the peak of the average ranges, and looking at probabilities. It's not impossible for it to do some ridiculous God candle, right? But if you want to stay level-headed and maybe look to the extremes of the moves, just look back at history and what has it done. Here is the day here on the 8th of August, and I basically just measured this, and we had that candle there of about $8,000. So if we're looking at the day's action, $8,000, that would take us to about 77K. And well, We fell short by a few $100 to get to 77, but it wasn't going to destroy people like many other calls going for 80 or 90 grand on the day. We heard that everywhere. So that's the first thing. That happened on the 6th of November. We had a very, very big day, an abnormal move. A great thing here is that we had very, very huge volume coming in on a breakout. So as it refreshes here, you'll see this was the largest up volume that we've had going all the way back to February. But the difference here is that it occurred on a breakout. So that's what you want to see when the market is breaking out. So it's confirming that the buyers are coming in. They're basically short squeezed the market, as we saw earlier, got rid of all these shorts, all these guys who are trying to initiate small short positions and basically going against the trend of the market, and we got this higher. So you want to see these dates. So the 6th is there. We often have a bit of a move in October, mid to late, so into the 20-somethings of October, and then we get this pump within the sort of first, second week of November that then stalls the price. That is the key thing here. So if we've got today, we had yesterday a nice big pump up. Maybe it happens today or tomorrow, basically looking to stall out somewhere over the coming days. Let's have a look back to see how this works. You've got the 9th of November in 2023. So we had the breakout on the 23rd of October. You can see the market was grinding higher until it stalled out on the 9th. Then basically the price action paused here until it was able to break out again. So as I said, I'm not trying to look for a turning point that crashes the market. What happens next once this extreme excitement comes back in, as I pointed out here, we've got the extreme greed. You can see that that can fade, which then leaves people thinking the move is over. And then if you get a correction, well, then they're definitely going to think the move is over, okay? So that's sort of the stuff that fools most of the people most of the time. They think the pump is just going to keep happening. Like you can see here, one pump and then basically stalls for several days. And we had the next pump into the 9th and it stalled for ages. In terms of timeframes here, the 9th stalled out until it got to this next pump 22 days later that then broke out and got to the 40Ks again. So interesting to note where these dates are. And then in future videos, because I don't want this to go too long, we'll check out some of the other dates here, 14th, 15th turns, some turns in the 20ths, and so on and so forth, so we can continue to follow that up. 9th, very important date there. So this 8th, 9th, 6th timing of the market. Now, this isn't a bear market, so I'm not saying the market is going to collapse whatsoever. We're just looking at dates that the market does extreme things. 2022. The 8th, FTX collapses. We had a big move on Bitcoin on the 8th, and then the 9th basically stopped the market. So a really nice signal there. Then you can see after those 2 days occurred, market pauses again for several days, few weeks. It gets its head together, and then it starts its next move. So again, we see it again in 2022. So right now we've got one action in 2024 that is yet to be confirmed of the date that we're going to stall. We have 2023, it's happened. We've had 2022, it's happened. Let's go look at the all-time high. Here's in 2021, straightforward. You got the pump up into a new all-time high on the 8th, stalls out on the 10th, and then it collapses from that point. So I'm not saying the market's going to collapse from here, but you can see the energy in this particular stage of the month. All right, going back to look at October with how this move happened. Here's the breakout, 15th, another move there into the 20th. And we've had something similar now where we saw it in the mid-month for October, breaking out of some of those weekly swing tops. 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. How many more data points do we need? Let's go back to 2020. This one, pretty significant because on the 21st of October, it broke out of the first tops here at 12 grand after this huge pump up. So very, very emotional time. 14K top. You can see the market starting to stall here in early November and late October. And then, well, 4 years ago, the 6th of November, there is your Thursday bar. You have a pause now for several days, and then it started to break out again. So as you can see, these big moves are often met with price stalling here. You've had all the excitement into one bar, nice big volume breaking out, and then a correction just to scare a few people, as it typically does, and then you start to get the move. 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, and 2020 now. What do we got in 2019? Do we get anything? Not really. As I said, It's not a 100% hit rate, but more often than not, this is what happens. And especially when you're looking at it in terms of the part of the cycle we're in. We're in that up phase move now for Bitcoin. We've gone through the reaccumulations and the accumulations, and now we're in that breakout phase. So you can see here, it was basically it's basically an accumulation phase through 2019. There was a turning point late in November, which held the market up. You bounce from that point, November and December. COVID happens, but then you can see the price action get back to those levels. So that's where the price really wanted to be. But this was the mother of all freak out times for the market. Bounces back quite quickly. So 2019, nothing there. 2018, bear market. We didn't get any sort of major turning points around 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, but there was a big breakdown on the 14th, the 19th, and the 20th. So pretty big breakdowns there, but nothing there that stopped. Now let's go back to 2017, which was the last year of the bull market. So this could be similar. Hang on for it. Could be similar to 2025. You can see here on the 8th of November. So literally right around now, Bitcoin's price stopped dead on the 8th and then crashed down from that point. So don't be fooled here. This was the end phases of the bull market, and any sort of day down freaked everyone out. Everyone shit the bed on any day down. Not like now where you'll see a day down, people get freaked out. 2 days, they start to freak out a bit more. No, at the ends, at the peaks, people freak out over any day down. They think the game is over because you just basically got a whole flood of new money in it and they don't understand how the swings work. Nonetheless, you had 4 days down here. You barely saw 4 days any other time running up into this move, and it was a massive move down for the time. It was 30% over 4 days. So big turning point there on the 8th, reversed, and then you had a pause in price before it takes off to the final peak. So we missed 2019 and 2018, but we have another hit in 2017. So 2016, anything happened there? Not really. So basically a pause in price as well, but you still had those breakouts through October to get through the reaccumulation areas that then ran up into this time around the 1st and 2nd of November. So yeah, you could argue that this was one of those times. It just happened earlier in the month and then corrected on the 3rd. Price paused again, but it wasn't the end. You had another big move right around the corner, December, January. And finally, I'll take us all the way back to 2015, 9 years ago. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, massive move. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, pauses the market, well, turns the market, big correction. Price pauses here, consolidates again. It's a reaccumulation at higher lows. Then the move happens again. Big move to the upside, pauses again, and then another big move to the upside. The rest is history from that point. So out of those 9 years, we could say definitely 2 didn't work. You could argue 3 didn't work. So 6 out of 9's not a bad result, especially when you're looking at those particular dates and where we sit in the market now. It's definitely something that I would be watching over the coming days to see whether we do get this sort of pause and price to consolidate after such a significant move. At which time, I would bet that most people are going to think the game could be over, even if we did see, or even worse, if we saw a correction over a day or two to push the price back down before it bounces again. People are going to think that the game is over once again, which is great for the bull market. We need to keep washing those out on the ways to the upside. So in terms of all that, recap of the bullish signs that we had seen on the way up, breakout of the downtrend, higher lows had formed. We saw an overbalance in time and price, and now we've got high volume on the breakout. So everything on our checklist, our trading checklist to confirm strength to the upside is playing out. So this would be similar to if you're looking at your MACDs or RSIs or any other signals that people use to confirm those sort of things. This, to me, from what I've seen in my experience trading, are far stronger than those other things that people use. But that's just my experience. I encourage you to backtest it and use them for yourself to see whether they work out for you in your own markets. On top of that, the USDT dominance has crashed. It's broken down here. We watched the double tops come in at 5.5%. We saw the breakdown of the uptrend here. This is a very significant uptrend. And now we're seeing it break down from some of the lows. So it's coming towards the next support level, the 50% level at around 4.8%. If it can break down from that, get below these ones as well at 4.7%, this could be on for young and old. So this might be a time where it starts to pause over the coming days, which lines up with Bitcoin and then goes on that next ride to the downside. throwing some more of that money back into Bitcoin and cryptos. Now, I did say I was going to give you a Bitcoin short-term price target, but I think it's important to cover the altcoins next, the altcoin market, and ETH as it continues to pump here, finally, possibly finding a low. But in terms of the true altcoin market cap, so this one here excludes Bitcoin, ETH, and the stable coins. This is exactly what we've been watching, an attempted break or a confirmed break over the coming days to close above these tops. The reason of this significance, why this is so significant, is that it was one of the first tipping points that we're looking for. It's not the biggest one. We're looking for the big one up here at $650 billion. Remember, this one excludes stablecoins. You'll see a different reading on some of the other charts. But here we've got that first move, that first sign there where we're potentially going to close above the 480 billion and above these other tops here at 487 and again 487, putting in a higher low on the election week to break out of these highs, which then works out into the timing of the altcoin season starting to get a kick on here. So it could be within 4 to 8 weeks, we start to see a break of this particular top here. So that top's at 650 billion. And as we see with the timing, 101 weeks takes us out to early December, so about 4 weeks away. And last cycle, you can see here again, I'm looking at around 101 weeks to get to that breakout of all of those tops, to get to that first tipping point here. So from the election was about 3 or so weeks. Things are looking like they're on track and again, rhyming very, very well. So that takes us to ETH. Finally, first signs of a breakout over 2,800 and my goal level is at 2,900. So chuck it up on the, the Bitstamp here, 2,900, because that's where the 50% level is before it broke down. Huge volume coming in. So you'd think that this could be a sustained move to the upside. Along with that, ETH BTC, provided it's able to get back above all of these lows here around 0.0385, that could be the first signs that we again are attempting to break higher. It hasn't been done yet, so I'm not holding my breath at this point. But if ETH USD can get above it, that's going to show that Bitcoin's still got some more strength. And then ETH BTC will potentially follow suit over the coming weeks. So some of the big names of the altcoin space for this cycle, Solana and Sui. I'll leave Solana for another video as this one's gone on much longer than I had thought. But yeah, basically Sui, huge volume coming in, guys, at these particular breakout points. After the corrections that we've been watching here on the channel, you guys remember, we looked at average drawdowns here. And just to show up what Sui had done in the past for areas of potential buying. And basically, Sui did around 33% correction last time it fell from that peak. And then looking back at all of the previous moves here, the averages were around 20 to 25 for the lower end. And then for the larger corrections, around 30, 33. So we called it around 35%. And it basically hit dead in the middle of 30 to 35% at 32.5%. This time we're seeing increased volume on the way out, breaking past the all-time high again of the previous all-time high of 218. And now today, reaching a new fresh all-time high of basically $2.39 as I filmed this video. So it seems unlikely at this rate that Sui would ever come back down, for this cycle at least, to take out that $1.60. So I'm not betting on Sui coming down to that 260. Put your pyramids into action now. Don't forget all of these areas to prepare for the winner's curse phase. And the next thing on everyone's list is, of course, the interest rate meeting coming up in about 17 hours. Like and subscribe to the channel. Things are progressing as we have anticipated here. Hopefully that's given you a bit of background as to how this has all come together over the last several months. And, you know, if you've been following for the last few years, how this 18-year cycle has just been an absolute fantastic ride, or crystal ball, I guess, and how things are continuing to push higher with BTC. I'll see you guys back here at the next video, or maybe the video will be from Dubai as I leave tonight to head over there just for a few days. Take care and peace out.